Welcome to this 12th class on Aparokshanubhuti. For those people who might be new or just catch the replay, there are replays for this series of classes and some other Upanishads and classes here, but there are even more on the YouTube channel called Advaita Retold. And probably Prakash will put the link to that in the chat, but it's easy to find Advaita Retold. And so you can catch up there, and usually within a day or two, the rooms here are posted. Do know that if you're particularly interested in the Sunday open discussions, there's a lot more to be found here right now. Those are not all uploaded to YouTube yet. And we're here Wednesdays and Fridays at 8:30 p.m. IST for classes, and at the same time on Sunday for a more open discussion and questions to Bindaji on Advaita. And all those rooms are the equivalent of about 11 a.m. Eastern time right now. So the hand raising in the chat will be off. But do know that after the talk that Bindaji is giving that goes about an hour, then there's about a half hour to come up and ask related questions. So we'll reopen the chat and the hand raising, and anyone who has a serious interest in question is more than welcome to come up. Some people have come up recently for the first time, like Lyral did lately. Some people have been here a long time, but regardless. So I think that's good enough for right now. Did you want to add anything else, Prakash, before we turn it over to Bindo?
No, over to Bindoji. Namaste. Thank you, Atmisha. Thank you, Prakash. Welcome all. And Hari Om. We will start today's 12th session of Aparokshanubhuti. Om Namo Brahma Dibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Karatribhyo Vamshi Rishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhasha Krudau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Guru Ratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Aparokshanubhuti. Sriharim Paramanandam Upadeshtaramishwaram Vyapakam Sarvalokanam Karanam Tam Namamyaham. In the last class, we concluded the Ajnana, type of Ajnana we are holding, confusing between Atma and Deha. So in the 20th verse, we concluded saying that Atma Nitya Hi Sadrupaha Deha Anityaha Hi Asanmayaha Tayoraikyam Prapashyanti Kimatjnanam Atapparam. So after having listed in the 5 verses above what is the type of Ajnana or the ignorance which we hold on to ourselves for identifying ourselves as who we are and what we are, is based on all these ignorant confusion between the self and the non-self, or the self and the Deha. Now, there are 2 verses which are coming up, the 22nd and 23rd, which is giving the nature of Atma. And then 24th verse onwards, it is again a 5 series of verse where Naham Deho Hyasadrupo Jnanam Ityuchade Budai. That will be the second line common to from 24 to 29. So today we will try to complete 22nd and 23rd, which are pregnant enough that I may not be able to do justice to your verses here itself. Let me see whether I can do the second one and complete these 2 so that we can get on to the next set of verses in the coming week. the verse number 22 starts with this Ātmanaha tat prakāśatvam yat padartha avabhasanam na agnyādi deeptivad deeptir bhavati andhya yato nishihi. Yat, that which is padartha avabhasanam. Avabhasanam means presence, appearance, or manifestation, or the way in which padartha means objects. The presence or the objectification or the manifestation of objects, all those things can be understood by the word padartha avabhasana. It's a noun. Tat, yad means that which is it is indicating to that because of which the objects are being made available for our cognition. Because of which we say that the tree is there, the mountain is there, you are there, I am there, etc. Plus, even things which cannot be sense organs wise perceptible, like I am happy, I am unhappy, I have my ignorance about such and such a thing. All those notions, imaginations, feelings, everything is included in the word padartha. That because of which the different names and forms or ideation of objects is being made available for us to know, to be aware, to be, to be knowing, or to be what you call recognition of the presence of it. Tad, that Ātmana prakāśatvam, that is due to the nature. So here the word prakāśatvam means nature of illuminating, is illumination is what is being indicated by, but the word is not to be understood as prakāśatvam. The word is that it is Ātmana, it is the nature of the self in each of them. Now everything we call it by a common, let us put a common name for it as it, which means idam. Aham and idam. These are the two ways in which we can compress the whole world into two words. Myself and rest of myself as this. That idam in the word Sanskrit has to indicate what is perceivable or acknowledgeable by me or known by me. So all that, including my own existence or my own presence or my own self-awareness of me, to the knowledge of everything in the world, which I bring it into one term called idam or this. That is the word tat. Ātmana prakāśatva. It is the presence of Atma or presence of that which is ingrained in every name and form or every object or everything what we call it as recognizable or knowledgeable or perceivable or known to us is due to that. Now that has been given a name Ātmana. Atma. See, the problem with which we all have is that the moment we hear Atma, Brahman and all those things, we are expecting it to be something different from us, something to be achieved by action or knowing or by means of some effort. Because of very reason, it escapes our attention. Because we are looking for something which is visible, known, and always present. Yet, it escapes our attention or our, acknowledgement. It includes myself and the rest of the world. So here the prakāśatvam is, even though the word meaning is illumination or, the nature in which it is presenting itself, is the aspect of that which is present in everything. Anasyudam means without any break. There is nowhere it can be segregated from one another. When we are segregating one another from one dog to another dog or one cow to a dog or things like that, what we are segregating is the qualification by which they are being known to us. What we call it as jati. So there are three types of it. Sajatiya, Vijatiya, Swagata. These are the three types. Sajati means in the same category. Jati means category. Vijatiya means different category. And Swagata means within itself. These are the three ways in which we qualify objects of the world. Even when we do these type of three categorization or the three type of separation between them, that with which we are cognizing them has no boundary. Because the boundary of that aspect of self or a dog has a self, a cow has a self, I am having a self, you are having a self, all of us are having self, including the space, time, object, everything. Desha, kala, vastu, everything you can include. And since they are present in everything unabated or inseparable, there is no boundary between one another. Therefore, we are not in a position to segregate it and see it through our any known means of knowledge. No pramana is there or no means of knowledge is there where we can segregate it and see it as separate entity. Because vilakshanaha, we studied it in the last, it doesn't have any parts or adjectives with which you can say it is unique or it is present here. Like the space cannot be divided. Yet, when a room comes up or a pot comes up or a container comes up, we are able to idea-wise bring in a partition in the space to say that it is a space inside a room, the space of a container or the space inside a pot. But in the case of Atma or Brahman, even that is not possible. Because It is anasyutam. Anasyutam means unabated or continuous or inseparable or individable. All type of, negativity only we can use it. Just as in the daylight, we are able to see many things. Even though it is due to the sunlight, we are able to see the multiple things in the experience. The sunlight which is coming from the sun, falling on the objects, due to the differences in the object, we are saying the light falling on this, light falling on that, light falling on a tree, light falling on a mountain, because of which we are able to see each of them. But if you look at the sky, from where the light is transmitted and falling onto the objects, such divisions are not visible or possible. Now, when we look at knowledge aspect of knowing aspect or awareness or consciousness, here also we have a similar problem. Even when we are identifying with an object as a cow or a dog or a tree or a mountain, whatever it is, we are able to say that I am knowing the dog, I am knowing the cow or a tree, etc. But that knowledge, we are percolating special characteristics of the things which we want to narrate and identify and tell it as specifics of that object. But as knowledge, if we look at like the sunlight from the sky or from where it is falling, thus knowledge doesn't bifurcate itself. While it is knowing the cow, it is also knowing the surroundings, it is knowing yourself, it is knowing the total picture. Yet, in our transactional world, we divide that as I am the knower, the object is the known, and the interconnection between me and the object is the reason why I am knowing it, because it is an object separate from me. Even when we separate this object from us, you cannot separate the knowledge as a substratum or as the total ambience in which it is existing, which includes the subject and the object and the act of knowing. This aspect of knowledge, awareness, existence, we cannot only indicate using these words the name for Atma. But Atma as a technical word cannot be isolated by any one of them as existence alone or knowledge alone or the nature in which it is making it available to us to know. None of these ways we can say that. Yet we are dependent upon the words for understanding, because that is the nature of our mind. But Atma cannot be known by the mind also. It is beyond the mind. Yad manasana manute yena hurmano tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam vididam upasati. That is not which the mind can mind, but because of which the mind become potential, capable of doing its job, not what you think as Brahman, as you have understood when you heard all these things from the teacher. In another way, the Taittiriya Upanishad says that yato vacho nivartande aprapya manasa saha. Where the words and the mind, that is manasa saha. The word saha is to indicate mind coupled with word or nomenclature or labeling or nama-rupa. Nivartande, when it is trying to label Atma or Brahman or bring it into the ambit of definition or labeling, it fails and it returns. Aprapya means unable to fathom or unable to reach or unable to measure. Manasa saha. That is the time when the mind coupled with words is becoming the thing. But in the Bhashya, which we studied in the Taittiriya, it is very clear that when the Upanishad mentioned about it, there is the mind. When it is devoid of the names and forms, manasa saha, vacha, ito vachaha, manasa saha. So when the mind is depending upon the words for the name and the form, it is failing to measure it. But the same mind, when it is not depending upon the name and the form, the same mind becomes one with Atma. Or that is the when yat sakshat aparokshat brahma. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad it says that sakshat, with knowledge or with perception. At the same time it says aparokshat. Two mutually opposing words. One says sakshat and the other word says aparokshat. And that is Brahma. Aparokshat means not indirectly known, but not directly known. But at the same time, it is immediately known as immediate knowledge. It doesn't have any dependency on the tools of knowing or the instruments of knowing, either internal or external. It is not dependent upon the words and the names and the forms or labeling or any of that talk. Therefore, it is sakshat. Sakshat means immediate. That is Brahman. So the mind, when it is devoid of notions, imagination, and expectations to know Atma or Brahman as an object, when it returns to its nature by failing to grasp what is Brahman or Atma, that is the time when it is really in the bosom of Atma or Brahman. It will not know it separate, but it will become one with it. That is the time when it aparoksha, that aparoksha anubhuti, what is being referred here in this book, becomes sartakam. Sartakam means achievable. Not as a separate object or idea or information or knowledge, but as one's own nature. That is why it is called the self in English. And that word Atma is only applicable only at that time. So, yet padartha avabhasanam tad Atma. Atmana prakāśatva. Na agnyādi dīptivat. But it is not like the illuminating nature of it is not like the agnyādi dīptivat. Agnyādi means like the fire, the sun, the lamp, anything which has got a illuminating capacity. Deeptivat, Deeptivan, Deeptiman. So that what is capable of illuminating something else, it is not like that. Atmanaha Deeptihi Bhavati is to be assumed here, because he is not saying that in the verse, but na agnyadi deeptivat atmanaha deeptihi bhavati. It is na atma's deep, the self, the nature of the self or the illuminating nature of the self is not like the illuminating nature of the other fire or the light emanating objects like sun, moon, stars, fire, lamp, etc. Yataha nishi andyam bhavati. For the nishi, yataha means for, nishihi at night, andyam bhavati, there is darkness is existing. For that, the other lights are useful, like that of a lamp or a torch or a candle, etc. But here there is a andyam or the darkness, which is the reason why kimatjnanam atapparam, which we have to take it from the previous verse. There is a type of darkness or ignorance in us, because of which we are not able to know the Atma. If Atma is self-luminant and it is present in everything unabated, inseparable, why is that we are not able to see it? Because all the light which we know, whether it is the lightning, sun, moon, stars, fire, torch, electricity, everything, objects which are in darkness. But there is this darkness of ignorance that cannot be illumined by any of these light which is being referred Agnyadi. That ignorance can be only removed or destroyed, because it is, we have to understand it, the nature of ignorance. The knowing of the nature of ignorance is its own destruction. There is no other way it can be destroyed. Because it is ours too. It is not a real object. Like, an object which is perceivable through our sense organs. Ignorance cannot be perceived through any of our sense organs. Nor can we be imagining about the nature of ignorance, because we know the nature of specifics of about certain things. That shows that if I use the word idam or this, I am acknowledging the presence of it. So it cannot be a thing which is unknown. That is why the ignorance is also ignorance is also known, because when I say I do not know Chinese, for example, the moment I use the word Chinese, I am acknowledging there is something called Chinese. But I do not know the specifics of it. The ignorance is of the specifics, but not about the vastu which is called Chinese, or the object what is called the Chinese there. So the ignorance which we are referring to, because of which we are unable to know Atma, can only be destroyed or removed or eradicated by knowing the nature of Atma is one way. But at the same time, Atma cannot be known. Yato vacho nivartande aprapya manasasaha. So we will not be able to eradicate our ignorance, expecting that Atma knowledge will come one day and I'll become a jnani and my ignorance will go. Then how can it happen? Like when a lamp is covered by a object like a drum or a door which is shut in a room, the presence of light inside that, when we know it is available, all we have to do is remove the obstruction of the light. And the light is self-illumining nature. Therefore, we do not need one more lamp to see the lamp which is burning inside the room. Same way, knowing the nature of ignorance, what we are holding in our ideation, in a mentation, or in our understanding, that when it gets removed by knowledge about the nature of ignorance, ignorance cannot be known because it is an avastu. But the way in which it is covering, or the way in which it is deluding us, or the way in which it is prohibiting us from knowing or being, when that aspect is made clear, then the self in me, which is the self in everything, that becomes clear to me. That is the time when I say that Aham Brahmasmi, or Sarvam Khaluidam Brahma, or Neha Nanasti Kinchana. In multiple ways we can say that. We have heard enough examples and words and explanations about Brahman and Atman. All those statements will become valid and noble and knowledge to us only when the nature of ignorance is known and that is addressed. Now, we will see the commentary given by Vidyaranya for this particular verse, which is very, very explanatory in nature. Nanu Atmanaha prakāśatvam kim nama iti ata aha Atmanaha iti. But then, what exactly is meant by saying that the self is self-luminous? That is, Ātmanaha prakāśatvam kim? Ityata aha. In response to this, we say that Ātmanaha iti. It is that of the self, Ātmanaha, in the sixth case, Shashti. Ātmanaha tat prakāśatvam bodhyavyam. The nature of this self-luminous aspect or the luminousness of the self has to be understood. Bodhavyam has to be understood. It is a instruction. Vidhi. And prakāśatvam, the word, is the tvam, that tvam in the word prakāśa, when it comes, it indicates the nature of the luminosity or light, luminous nature. Ātmanaha is again of Atma, has to be understood. So the question comes, Kim tat ityata aha yad iti. What is this prakāśatva? What is being explained here, or what is being referred here? To explain this, it is said yat and that. Yat prakāśakatvam tad Ātmanaha prakāśatvam. That yat padartha avabhasanam gadapatadi vastu vishaya prakāśaha. Yat, that which is padartha avabhasanam, which illumines the objects signified by the word this. Yat pada. Yat pada. In yat pada means tasya artha, yat padartha. Yat pada artha. Here the pada and artha has to be understood. The meaning of the word yat, which is indicating here the luminosity or the avabhasanam of the objects like ghata, pata, adi, vastu, vishaya. Ghata means pot, pata means cloth, adi means everything. Ghata, pata, adi means entire world of objects. Vastu vishaya prakāśaha. When I say an object, vastu vishaya prakāśa, I am referring to vishaya of the vastu. Even though when I am seeing a cow, I am always making sure that the word cow, when it is heard by anyone, has a very clear picture of that object which is being referred by the word cow. I don't have to go into the specifics each time to the listener. Suppose if it's a new baby or a child who is asking what is a cow, that time I may have to tell that it is a four-legged animal. It is something which is having these qualifications, like the dewlap and two horns. It is of colors, multicolors or black or white or brown, etc., but never blue. Like that, I can give all sorts of explanation, but the child may not still know what is a cow until it sees a cow and say that, oh, the one which I am seeing now, this is the one which I told you as cow. Now you know. See, look at the two horns, look at the dewlap, look at the four legs, and the leg and the nail on the leg is split. So its hoof is two in each leg, and it has a long tail, the color, look at the color, etc. Then the child knows. Next time when I refer to the child, I don't have to use all these description and everything. All I have to do is cow, the word cow. So, vastu vishaya. when I say the Vastu Vishaya means it is the details of the Vastu. Prakāśa, that is what is being revealed when I am saying suppose if I say pot, the moment I say pot, the idea of the pot comes into the mind of every one of us who has seen some pot in some form or the other. That is the quality of the padartha, padasya artha, padartha. That is the object standing for a word. And here the word used is yat, for the luminosity, avabhasana. And that luminosity with which the objects are known, or that is becomes the one of the qualifications of the object. When I say a cow, there is a luminosity in the cow because of which you and I are able to see the cow, know the presence of the cow. Then only the details of the cow comes into the picture. So that avabhasanam, the word or the luminosity of the word cow, is prior to all the other aspects of the cow. Idantaraya nirdishyamanaha vishaya darshanam iti yavat is explaining that, meaning the perception of objects pointed out by the expression this, idandaya. Idandaya means the expression of the word idam. That is, seeing the object as this pot, this cloth, and so on and so forth, is due to this self-luminosity present in all the objects. That is the one, nirdishyamana vishaya darshanam iti yavat. These are illumined, means revealed to the awareness. What way we can use is very difficult, but that is the only way we can say that. So, Atma is that. It is due to that which is present in everything, we are knowing there are multiplicity in the world. The multiplicity is due to Atma. Atma is not causing the multiplicity. The multiplicity depends for its own existence due to the self-luminosity, which is the nature of Atma. Tarhi, Agnyadi prakāśavat vikaritvam syat iti ata aha na Agnyadi deeptivat deeptihi iti. The question is asked, if so, then one might think that, like the fire, the other light, the self would also be subject to change, vikaritvam. For that, it is negated saying, na agnyadi deeptivat. To negate that aspect only, the word na means is used here, and the examples which are not to be compared with. The examples given are non-comparable with Atma. That is why na agnyadi deeptivat deeptihi iti. Like the fire, etc. Iyam atma deeptihi agnyadi deeptivat na kadachit utpatti vinasha ati vikaravati iti artaha. So the self-luminosity is not like that of the fire, lamps, etc., which undergo birth, destruction and modification, vikaravati. So the lamp has to be lit before it becomes a lamp for illumining. And when it is put off, when it having a nirvana of the lamp, we say that the lamp is dead, lamp has puffed off or gone, dead, or the bulb has gone, fused, like that. Tatra hetu maha bhavati antyam. The reason for this is given as the darkness is experienced. Tatra hetu maha. So I'm not getting into the Nyaya language of hetu and etc. here. It is only people who have Nyaya knowledge can understand that. Yataha karanat nishihi, nishi, ratro agnyati prakāśa ekasmin deshe sati api tad anyatra lokasya andyam rupa graha akshamatvam bhavati. Now he is explaining that what is the qualification of the lamp, etc. At night, even when the fire or the lamp shines in one place, there remains darkness elsewhere. Therefore, people are unable to perceive the forms in those places. But in the case of Atma, it is not like that. There is never a place where Atma is not present. That is why it has got the name Brahman. Because Brahatvad Brahma. There is nothing bigger than that or nothing more Vyapaka than that. Therefore, there is no comparison with the luminosity of the fire, etc., with that of Atma. Na etadrishi Atma Deeptihi. Ekatra vidyamana cha ekatra avidyamana parichinna cha asti. Not present in one place and absent in another, not limited or not divided. That is ekatra vidyamana means na ekatra vidyamana cha. Not present in one place. Na ekatra avidyamana. Not as absent in another. The light, physical light is present in the where the light can reach. But outside that, it is avidyamana means not present there. Absent it. Parichinna asti. Therefore, there has limitation for this one. Na etadrishi atma deepti. The deepti or the luminosity of the self is not like that. Kintu deepati rupasya agnyati prakāśasya prakāśika tad abhavecha andakarasya prakāśika. It is the illuminator of lights, fire's light. Kintu means rather, Deepati rupasya agnyati prakāśasya prakāśika. Prakāśasya prakāśika. It is the illuminator of the light, of agnyati, of the fire, etc. Deepati rupasya, or the lamp, etc. Tad abhave cha antakarasya prakāśika. In the absence of that light of the fire or the lamp, even the ignorance is made knowable to us or aware to us or illumines us to our knowledge. That is the prakāśika of Atma, or that is the nature of luminosity of Atma, which we are discussing. In the last class I referred Atatra suryo vadina chandratarakam nema vidyuto banti kutoyam agni tameva bandam anubadi sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. I don't want to repeat that. Nor the sun, nor the stars, the moon, nor the lightning, nor the lamp. What to talk about this physical lamp? All of them becomes known, self-luminous or self-existence made available to us because of tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. Due to that luminosity of the self in them and in me. If it is not there in me, I am not there to know the luminosity of them. Atma is present in every one of them. Atma is present in me also. Therefore, tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. Idam, the word idam again comes here. Everything is known as the word idam. So tasya bhasa means atmanaha bhasa. It is the same thing which is been explained here. Utpatti nasha rehita cha sada sarvatra purna asti. Eva asti. Utpatti nasha rehita. There is no what you call creation or destruction. Nor can we say that it is not present here, it is not present there. Therefore, sarvatra purna eva. Therefore, purnamada purnavidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnameva avasishyate. That also is referring to Atma only. There is no way you can remove that from one place and move it to another place, because it is present everywhere. Nor can you displace it from one place to another place. Like you fill a bottle of water inside the ocean and that bottle can be moved, the water inside the bottle will move along with the bottle, even though it is moving inside water. Same way, if you close the air inside a pot, the air will move, but not the space. Now, the one with which even the existence of the space is available to us, subtler than the space, has to be more pervading than the space. Because the subtler the thing, pervasiveness increases. Therefore, that is present everywhere. Sarvatra sada, always. Sampurna, sarvatra purna, eva asti. This is how the Atma is being defined in by one verse in Shankaracharya in Aparokshanubhuti. How crisp, precise and unambiguous can a definition be of Atma is well demonstrated in this particular verse. Just meditating on this verse and the meaning of it and trying to know the implication, the intended meaning of this verse should illumine within ourselves or us, each one of us, what is Atma. And once we know that, he will have all his imagination, knowledge and ideation about doing anything and everything to know Atma. He has nothing else to do. He has nothing else to search. He has nothing else to find out. Because it is present everywhere, here and now, in this very moment. That is why the last class I said, Iha cheta vedi atasatyamasti, na cheti ha vedi mahati vinashti. Bhuteshu bhuteshu vivitya dhira, pretyasman lokat amrita bhavanti. Bhuteshu bhuteshu vichitya dhira, dhimantaha. seeing it present in every object. Bhuteshu, bhuteshu means every object. It is present in every object. The repetition of bhuteshu, bhuteshu is to show, to give the emphasis on non-exception of any object. You cannot exclude anything out of it. You name it, it is in it. You name it or you think about it, you do anything else. It cannot escape Atma. So much is the pervasiveness or presence in everything. That presence in you and me, as I and you, when we say I, is that one which is because of which I know I exist. I know I am there for others to know me. Not because of this physical form or the mental or the imaginary or my transaction or my behavior or my way of transacting and talking and everything. It is that Atma which is in me, is the same, which is present in every object. There is nothing outside it. Pretya asmad lokat amrita bhavanti. Asmad lokat pretya. Having moved out of the dependency on the loka. I mean, the loka here means not the world we are referring to. Lokyate anena. Every experience is the reason why there is world. So, loka means experience. Pretya means in the experience. When we go out of the details of the experience, what remains of the experiencing, of the experiencer and the experiencing, that is what is indicated by Pretyasmad Lokat. Amrita Bhavanti. He knows that there is no way I can be born, I can be killed, I can be, changing of the 6 modifications of physical body. All those things are only indicating to one thing, that I am that. But Tvamasi, when I was told by my Guru, the experience of Aham Brahmasmi can happen only when I know my Atma is nothing but Brahman, and that is Sarvavyapi. There is no place where I can even put a needle head to say that Atma is not there. Because the word idam, which includes aham to others, that idam means everything. That idantaya, because of the word idam, that is included in the Atma. That is the reason why there is nothing outside our experience, our awareness or our knowledge, including our absence of knowledge in our deep sleep, where we cannot even say I existed, cannot be denied even when I say that I knew nothing, I was present to know nothing. The Atma was present, but the ego, I, as a person, was not present there. Therefore I say I knew nothing, I had a good sleep. That memory, the pratyavijna of having no experience was the goodness of it. And that is the nature of Atma, which is explained in this verse. Yadva iyam Atma deepti agnyadi deepti sadrishina. So say that this illumined is not similar to the light again. Yataha karanat ratrau andyam andakaraha bhavati ataha tad vilakshana atmadiptihi jneya. Because at night, darkness appears, showing that the fire-like light, not all pervading. It is not all pervading the light, which is the darkness light. The self's light must be understood as entirely different. That is, ataha tad vilakshana atmadipti jneyaha. We have to understand that atmadipti is different. Yadi atmadipti agnyadi dipti sadrishi bhavet, tarhi agnyadi diptya yada antakarasya nashaha bhavati tada atmadiptya api antakarasya nashaha syat. Yadi, in case, or if you think that the self light is similar to the light of the fire, like the light can be put off, the illuminosity or the luminosity of the Atma also can be put off. But even when the darkness, like the darkness of the night, etc., would be destroyed by the self's light alone, it is antakarasya nasha syat. Because of what? Atmadiptya. By the light of the self-luminosity of the self, we are even acknowledging the presence of darkness, of the darkness which has now been produced by when the physical light is being switched off. Even there, the easiness of darkness is the self in the darkness, because of which we are able to know that there is darkness. Parantu Atmanaha sat tat prakāśabhyam sarvatra sarvada vidyamanatve api antakarasya nashaha na bhavati. Same way, however, even though the self is always present everywhere as existence and luminosity, ignorance or the spiritual darkness is not automatically destroyed by Atma. This is what I said in the beginning. Atma is there, yet we are ignorant about Atma. Suprakāśe kuto avidya. My famous quotation from Sureshwaracharya. How can there be darkness in the Suprakāśa Atma? Ataha Atma Diptihi Agnyadi Dipti Sadrishi Na. Kintu Iyam Agnyadi Dipti Bhati Idam Andyam Bhati Ityadaha Akarane Karena. Therefore, the self's light is not the fire's light again. Instead, the fire's light appears as darkness because of the light of Atma. Agnyadi Diptehe Andasya Andyasya cha Anyasya Sarvasya cha Prakāśika cha Avirodhini Atmadipti. So the Atmadipti or the self-luminosity of Atma is not opposed to Avirodhini, Prakāśika. It is Sarvasya, Anyasya Sarvasya cha Prakāśika cha Avirodhini. And it is not opposed to the light, darkness of the light, which is of the lamp. It is not opposed to it. That is why we are able to acknowledge even darkness. The light which we are talking about, Atma, is not the physical light, but the light of knowledge or awareness in the nature in which we are able to even acknowledge that. Suprakāśa eva abhyute tavya sarve atmajnana aruda ityartha. Thus, this self-luminosity must be accepted by all those who have known or risen into the level of self-knowledge. Tasmat Agnadi Deeptinam Api Deepika Anya Sadhana Nirepeksha Deeptihi Sa Atma Prakāśa Iti Bhavaha. Therefore, the final conclusion statement is that therefore even the light of fire and lamps is ultimately illumined by the self. It is this independent, self-existent light that is called the true self-luminosity. Anya sadhana nirapekshaya deeptihi. Independent, nirapeksha, of anya sadhana, of other, and atma prakāśa, self-existent, is the true nature of the self-luminosity. I'll stop here. We have exceeded time, but I needed to complete the Vidyaranya's commentary to complete the aspect of it. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you. Dhanyawad.
Thank you, Bendaji. I think it was perfect that you went a little bit longer so that you could wrap everything together. So thank you for that. Thank you everyone for being patient. The hand raising and the chat is open. If anyone would like to come up and discuss this particular class or the one prior, please come up.
Namaste Venkat.
Namaste Hari Om, Binduji.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, Artemisha, Prakashji. Binduji, this was a pretty, very detailed description, and the verse needed this. Contemplating on what you sort of took us through, the two categories. One part that says that which manifests all objects and that which illuminates all. There are two parts to this. Now, first part, that which manifests, that avabhasa has, the avabhasa and prakāśa, both words are used. Avabhasa is same as manifestation, and prakāśatva is illumination. So this avabhasa can be taken as that which is the cause of all manifestation, is the right way to take it?
That's why earlier I used to say the existence and the knowledge aspect are not two separate, but two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
So same way, if an object is existing, it is not existing just as something existing without being known. When we say anything is existing, two things are happening. One is it is showing its own existence. Second thing is that we are knowing its existence by something which is emanating. Even though I am using the word emanating, it is not something like the light emanating, but something which is because of which we are able to acknowledge its presence. That is what I called emanating. So, Atmisha had the same doubt when I used the word emanating. That's why I had to repeat that when I use the word. It is not the light which is coming out of it, but the presence of its existence being made available to us. That is what I use the word emanating for. So the existence and emanating, these are the two aspects of why prakāśatvam and avabhāsatvam to be understood.
Got it. See, to get to the level of detail, So there is let's say that there is take the pod example. The moment you say pod, that was there as an impression before, and now it was taken as a thought and highlighted. Basically, that thought of a pod brings the pod to the screen of the mind, and it get lightened up, and hence it is seen by the sensual setup. The point is there is a projection, and there is a elimination, and there is a recognition aspect of it. Now, the first part is projecting. You can call it as a manifesting. The second part is eliminating, and the third part is recognizing. Now, going to this verse, the manifestation. I'm with you on the existence aspect and the knowledge aspect of it, right? The knowing aspect. Knowing aspect is, we can take it as a light of knowing. Maybe that's Gnana Jyoti. The moment the light hits the screen of the mind or surface of the mind, it causes knowing. Hence, the knowing is induced into the equipment, hence available. That way, this light is all pervading. It causes knowing. Hence, the perception happen. Illumination is the aspect because it is illuminating. Whatever out there is illuminating. But this projection aspect is where I have the question. Is the projection coming from? I'm taking the mundane example. A thought form, how the thought has come, we can, that goes into a different direction. Simply that thought has an impression available, and it got, projected into the screen. That manifestation, can you cover a little more? Because you said since it exists, hence it is projected. How do you take this? How do you digest this? That manifestation part. Or you have to go to Taittiriya and say that Aparokshanubhuti and all that, leading to, even the cow example, how the complex cow happened. How do you fathom? Yeah.
Now, whenever we take an example outside us, we will be conditioned by our sense organs and the mind. Even if we take something which is happening to our mind, like for example, I am happy. Aham. That sukham. Anubhuti. What happens in me. You recognize it. There also, to use your words, the projection or the coming up of the happiness and the acknowledgement of the happiness are two things which are happening simultaneously. But when it comes to when you wake up, when you go to dream, or when you go into your deep sleep, the I, Ātma, not the ego Ātma, the I has not gone through any changes. Therefore, the Ātma is not projected or comes into existence. Same way, everything in the world is present already as Ātma. That is why the word idam is used at that time. But when the idam doesn't have that, this word doesn't have discerning or distinguishing factors, it doesn't become an object. Therefore, even though the existence or the presence of the object is there, we are unable to recognize it. Example, space. Space is present. We know the space is present, that is why everything is existing in the space. But at the same time, with no object, we are unable to define space. Think about it. Subtler than the space is I, the aham in you and me. When I cannot define or acknowledge the space which is otherwise definable when the objects come in it, the subtler than the space, the I-ness of mind, the self of mind, mama atma, or it cannot be mama atma there, my atma, not myself. It is the self because of which even the word my comes in. Because that is the time when the ego takes place. Prior to the ego coming into existence in the waker, before the experiences of the waker comes in, your existence has to be prior to that. Then only the ego can come and say I or mine. So when you take an example of the pot, you will talk about the projection or the coming into existence, etc. But when the same Atma is, when I am saying that there is nowhere you can pinpoint it is not present, which includes you, and that is the reason why we are unable to say, when did I come into existence? Because that is why the word that na jayate mriyate va kadachit, that thing in the Kathopanishad as well as in Bhagavad Gita says that na jayate mriyate va kadachit. Because we are never born. Same way we are never going to die. The I, the self in us, the physical body, the mental body, the intellectual, all the Panchamaya koshas will go. Because they had birth. They have come into existence. But the self in them was never born, never think, just as the self in me was never born, will never die. The self in them will never come, never die. But the adjectives because of which we qualify them, this is Pranamaya Kosha, this is Annamaya Kosha, this is Vijnanamaya Kosha, this is Anandamaya Kosha, or I am this body, I am male, female, all those things which we attribute. That is why all of them are been included in the term called Nama Rupa. Without the Nama Rupa, the existence or the presence of the things has to be understood and known. That is the time when you know Ātman as the self-luminous thing because of which the consciousness or the awareness is capable of knowing the presence of the self itself and the presence of the other things when the adjectives come. The knowing aspect, when it is happening, it is due to the capacity of the self to know things. That is the jnanam. Satyam, now we are coming into jnanam aspect of it. And that is the reason why the dependency for the jnanam on the words and the forms, etc., because the mind cannot otherwise fathom it. which we saw the Taittiriya. Yato vacho nivartante aprapyamasa. So all these things are showing that there is never a projection at any point of time. The projection what we are seeing or we are imagining or we are attributing is due to the very ignorance of the nature of self in anything that is getting projected.
Vijay. The shifting the locus from Triputi-based analysis to the existence-based view itself will nullify or take out the manifestation piece of it completely. That is very nice, Binduji, what you did. To complete this, reconcile between existence and Triputi itself, I'm using this language, existence and expression. That's what it is. All that attribution is coming from those impressions. Namarupa, we call it later. Expression has happened. Appearance. Hence further, knowing follows. Both are simultaneous, but the big shift is move away from Triputi. That is where I was struck. Thank you, Binduji.
Thank you, Vivek.
Just Deep's going to come up. Oh, and welcome Prasad also. Just to say, probably we'll go ahead and close hand raising here. If there's anyone who feels a deep desire to bring up a question or discuss today's class, and now's a good time to raise your hand and take whatever time you need. Deep and Prasad, I'm assuming you'll just, it's great to have you here with us and speak in on your own if you wish to. So go ahead, Deep.
Thank you, Artemisia. Binduji, Sat Sri Akal, how are you?
Sat Sri Akal, I'm fine. How are you?
Good, Binduji, doing well.
India or US?
India, back in India now. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So, Binduji, I was just wondering, I've just reached towards the end, but it just struck me that when we have all of this, ideas of the self, and we talk about you are the self and this kind of a thing, which is, obviously the whole neti approach is something else, right? So what I just wonder, when we do this kind of a exercise, it seems to me that this possibility of that we create some kind of an idea of this Ātma and we start having these ideas because, there is this refrain that we will remind ourselves that we are the Ātma, that we will keep telling ourselves that we are the Ātma, right? But it seems to me that, do you think that there may be the approach of negation, maybe a far more surer and more effective approach? Because to me it seems like here there is this danger of conjuring up all these ideas and making some image of something, and like it becomes like almost like I don't know, like a dual thing. Actually it is dual, but then you mistaking it for non-duality. I wonder what you have to say about that, because I always think that, you see, when we talk about this self, we talk of the Ātma. I think that well, this is of course now, I'll just say it to you, you can address it. That, you see, the body and the mind and all of that, right? The mind has its own movement, right? So that movement of the mind, unless it itself has stepped out of the way, right? That is where I think the vision of the Ātma is, right? So unless that has stepped out of the way, it is going to continue, it is going to have a certain momentum, right? So that momentum, if that is not seen and that does not go, then any amount of conviction that you are the Atma finally is not going to really do it, because you can't fool the mind also like that. You can't be like, if the mind is still going on its own, this thing, and then you keep telling it and you try to, kind of like a self-hypnosis, I'm saying it can become. So I wonder what you have to say about that, when because I see this also a lot, honestly. I tend to seem to notice this a lot. I observe it a lot.
You're right, Deep. The best method is to negate. But we should be very clear what we are negating. When we say neti neti, while we may be negating the objects per se, and when we negate the objects, are we negating the object in totality, or are we denying the object's dependability for its own existence as independent with specifications or adjectives? Just as when we are negating everything from the space, removing things from the space, we are not negating the space, the existence of the space. We are saying that sun is not there, moon is not there, nothing is there. When we are doing all those things, we are sure we are debating, but there is the dependency of those things for their own existence in the space, which we are not addressing when we are negating them. So the same is the case when we do a neti-neti process. We get into that state where we negate all the adjectives and the dependencies, but we are forgetting one aspect of it, that there is something, what is the dependency for them. That aspect has never been addressed. That is why the neti-neti initially helpful. But when you come to this aspect, after neti-neti, then what? Who am I? That question doesn't get answered there.
Right. But then, so what you're saying is, this is actually an interesting thing, because you see, what you're saying also is, because to me, it is not the idea again, and it's not the mental idea that I'm the Atma that is going to serve at that point. The point is that once you do this neti neti, from there, what you're saying, to what I hear is that you don't want to end up in some vacuum. Right? We don't want to end up
Yes,
in some vacuum after this process. Okay?
absolutely.
Right. But also that we also can't replace the vacuum with a mental idea. So we actually have to come to something positive. Right? So that
Yes,
means that there is this journey, in a sense, call it journey or whatever, right? That even when you have done the process of neti neti, then it appears that even at the end of that is not enough, because you might have done the whole thing, negative thing, but there is something, which is the positive, which is, let's say, has the ananda aspect, because, in it or whatever, right? That until you are there, it is, so I don't know if you can actually say something about that, because one thing is there, right? Because there is a certain kind of thing in, there is the whole idea, right? Gyan, a lot of people say Gyan Yoga is very dry. It ends up in nothing. And so Bhakti is very this thing. And I think there is a real, I don't want to call it a danger, but it actually almost seems like an actuality that once one does this neti process, right, there is a kind of vacuum that may appear. So I wonder if you can talk something about, going from this vacuum to the real positive Because the Atma must be a real thing, na? It must be not be just an idea, right?
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I understand what you are coming to. I know where you are, where you are looking into. As you rightly said that it can look absolutely dry subject when you are talking about Atma. Because there is, accessibility is not there, knowability is not there. There is nothing called mentation possible there. None of these things are possible. Then what the hell is that? Either a question can come. And if it is not useful for me without that, what is the purpose of knowing such a thing? Is a question which can come to anybody's mind. But that is not what Advaita is talking about. Advaita is talking about is that the differentiation which can bring up problems is mitigated when we know that we are all one. And that oneness is not dissolving or diminishing or eradicating the specialities with which you and I stands apart. But the very substratum for our own existence, of your existence and my existence, when we understand that without that neither can you exist nor can I exist, there is the brotherhoodness or the brotherliness, or what you call in Sanskrit, Sarvatma Bhava, that comes as a natural product. There the bhakti is not the bhakti of which you talk about a Krishna or a Vishnu or a Jesus or anybody for that matter. It is the love for everything. The Sarvatma Bhava should result in the Sarva Bhuta Hitairata, what the Bhagavad Gita talks about. So what is the Atma when you know that you are not just going into a void or a dry, arid land where you will be parched for your own existence, but you are diving into your own existence where you meet with everyone. You see everyone in that existence as not separate from you, not as, independently existing to challenge you, but as coexisting with mutual admiration, appreciation, and what you call oneness. That oneness can be known, felt, and lived only when you dissolve the multiplicity or the duality. Only in that state you really know what is love. The other love which we know is from duality, and that love is not love. That love has a purpose for it. But the love which we talk about when you know that you are everything is your own love for yourself. Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. Brother talks about it. So we all should know that beauty and that elixir, what we can drink together without any conditions or any limitations or any sort of segregation which we are bringing, is what Advaita is talking about. So it is not the dry void or anything which otherwise people, blame to it. The people who have not been able to know this, they will blame it. But those who have known it have no complaint about it or no qualms in saying Advaita is the truth.
No. Yeah, I think I wasn't able to actually communicate my exact question, but I think it's okay. Yeah, I get it. That I understand what you're saying. But I was just trying to say that conceptually, yes, of course, that is the, that's the rationale, and that is the whole, you can call it the ultimate faith in which one makes the journey. But, but I'm just saying that is, because the idea is one thing, right? And unless that idea becomes a living reality, it's of not much use. And so when somebody does this kind of negation, right? Because they can end up negating everything. Does that automatically mean that they have now got that the bliss of the Atma is just going to, right? So that is what I was trying to say, that is it possible that there is this kind of space between that space of where you have negated everything, where you maybe have lost everything, but at the same time, there is a kind of a, I guess at that point, really, you can't do much about it. I'm guessing that is what it's coming to me as I say this out loudly. But yeah, I think that was what I was trying to communicate. But it's okay. Yes, Binduji. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deep. It's very much possible. Yeah, go ahead.
I know we're a drop over, but I'd like to, can we take a few more minutes on what Deep said? Because I'd like to say something that maybe will clarify what he was saying, because I thought it was really important. Or would you prefer we just wait till Sunday? It's just we're here together right now.
Go ahead. I'm all time for you.
I have a bite to add.
Is that okay, Venkat?
Yeah, please. Artemisha, go ahead. I have a bite to add. I just want to.
Okay. So, and I realize this has happened before with you, Deep, where I think I'm hearing what you're saying and then I try to say it, and sometimes I'm right and sometimes I'm wrong. So regardless though, what I was hearing, even if I'm wrong, I think it's valuable, is, this idea that we're going to negate, and that somehow that's going to lead somewhere that is not just some void, dry, I'm trying to use the words people right here have used, space, but that somehow that's going to deliver some promise which has the flavor of what you, Binduji, just beautifully described, of love and completeness and, a real satisfaction to the spiritual quest. Not that we've solved the mystery of the cosmos for physics or anything like that, but that, this quest of what am I inside myself really? Okay, so give me a moment. So the way that I understand this, from my own experience and from trying to understand how you try to teach Binduji, is that there is this possible practice of many practices where there's this negation, and that there is a freedom that we can gain in it that we feel on the egoic level, like, I realize, that I'm not just a member of my family. I realize I have some freedom and I'm not just, a husband or a wife. I realize then to really not just get in a rut with negating, but like really becomes a deeper investigation. What does it mean if I say I'm not my body? Because obviously there are many ways in which my body is integral to everything I know of myself. Or what does it mean to say I'm not my mind or my emotions? Those should be really deep, deep investigations, not just, I can see, I'll negate that. But the point is that it's not an endless path of negating. That if we really do this deeply, at some point it will hit us, or I will say it hit me, now, and you've pointed this out also, Binduji, is, okay, now what about this one who's doing all the negating? And that's the only resolution is in doing that inquiry very deeply. What about this one who's negating? There's some intelligence, there's some consciousness that's negating. What about that itself? And if that's not addressed, in my opinion, I feel like is what you were saying, Deep, then it's just a really huge duality. It's this kind of empty, spacious, I'm going to be consciousness, which is where it seems to me, I'll just say it, in a lot of these rooms, people stop, I'm awareness. Well, are you an awareness that's actually a huge duality and you're putting everything else on the outside? To me, that's the problem Deep was mentioning. And what I would say is that one has to pursue that inquiry all the way through. And in my opinion, I've benefited from not having someone tell me what that will look like to go through that inquiry. But if one really pushes into it, the situation is resolved, because that duality that's been created between me as kind of this spacious consciousness and everything else I'm free of, that has to get rectified, and that's where the resolution is, in my mind, to what I thought Deep said. And I recognize I'm way out of the tradition compared to most people here, so I'm happy to listen to whatever anyone wants to say.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I think you got, an idea of what I was saying. And then again, right? So I was trying to also talk about this whole, call it journey or whatever, where you come to this now, where you come to the negation of the I, for instance, right? And then, because the thing is that when we negate, I mean, to me, logically, right? When we negate things, we are removing things. And when we are removing things, right, we are going to be left with, let's say, space. Okay? So if space is the metaphor or the simile that we have, we don't feel space. We conclude space, we conclude that we're in space, but we don't feel it, right? Or feel meaning, you know what I mean, right? To actually, like, it's a tangible thing. So space is not tangible. So similarly, right, that's what I was trying to say, that for the Ātman to actually be tangible, there must be, because it seems that this is, that the tangibility of it, which means when you say Satchitanand, that the Ananda is a real thing, it's not like a concept, right? So I was just trying to get to that, and I just think that these are very, like, this is all actually very intricate stuff, we try to make the journey from this level all the way far too quickly, I think, and I think that's part of maybe the discussion that one can actually have. But yeah, today is not the Q&A day, so yeah, so I get, today is not the pure Q&A day, but I think I want to reserve those kind of questions for that kind of day, because there's a certain, scripture that also is being talked about here.
Venkat?
Yeah, I'm just trying to add a sidebar on this. See, this is about the one who's teaching us, in case Bindoji, established in it and articulating it, who's established in this experience and articulating it. And for the one seeker, need to question the master, tadvidi pranipatena paripakshena sevayat. You need to come ask question, inquire it. Don't sit with your imagination of Ātman. You have to come here, talk. You have to ask questions. That's a process. Okay, this is the process to get to the same experience the Guru is articulating. If Guru is established in shunyata, that emptiness, the shishya will get the disciple who is following also get to the same emptiness. If the Guru is established in the Advaitic experience, and the shishya will get the same thing. It is important to ask the question, clarify, and make progress. You can't question the process itself. Then what will happen is, it'll go nowhere.
Yeah, no, I think that, I think that I feel that there are two aspects. One is, I think that's what I'm doing. That's one thing. And I think the second thing is that, I have to be very honest and say that, the Guru, when you say Guru, to me Guru is something very large, right? I certainly consider Binduji a teacher, right? And so when you say all that, and then there are all these values that are come with it, that are ascribed to it, and all these ideas. I mean, I don't have to necessarily say that I completely will subscribe completely like to those ideas, because that is not the relationship I'm starting with. Right? I have not established that relationship. I'm being very clear. But there is certainly a relationship that is valued. So I think that is something that one has to also see for themselves and not project it on others. But I think the whole idea is not about that. The whole idea is that we are trying to do a sincere investigation into Advaita, and that is, to me, that is what matters, and I'm sure Binduji appreciates that. So I don't think that value kind of judgments on that are really honestly needed. Thank you.
Okay, to sum it up, what Atmisha said and what Deep said, and will get contributed, all put together. Let me tell you that the methodology which Advaita uses are multifold, multi-nature in the thing. There are places where this negation, like the neti, is used as one method. But ultimately what Advaita wants is logic and your personal, the listener's personal journey, where the path prescribed by the Advaita, whatever may be the negation path or assertion method, whatever may be the method, has to be applicable to everyone. Otherwise, it is not a experience which can be referred to by the scriptures. So when the scripture said that, I am saying the scripture said is that because scripture is nothing but words of someone who has experienced it. He has written it down, or he has orally said to his disciples, and which is passed on from generation to generation, as we have now here. Somebody has done that methodology. Somebody has understood what it is, and it has stood the test of time for having millions of years past still being valued, not because it is being considered sacred and kept wrapped up in some, cloth or some chamber or somewhere else. It is freely available, distributable, translatable, explainable by multiple people in their own language and methodology. All these things are hinting to only one thing, that this is universally acceptable. Otherwise it would not have been. Now coming to specific about the nature of Ātma and the methodology of inquiry. There is that final stage where I use the example of the pole vault. You have to throw the pole vault and the pole and then cross the bar to consider yourself as successful in performing the method. This method here also, we have this same problem, because what we use is our mind, our language, our logic. All the three cannot define or give the knowledge of Ātman. But the knowledge of Ātman, which is being described in these three methods of words and mind and the logic, will come to a stage where the three has to be dropped and you have to cross over. Why you have to cross over? Because it is the logic which is becoming the biggest barrier. Because the logic is thinking that the methodology has to have a result, and that result should be verifiable. Typical scientific way of approach. But even science has failed to do this because the observer for any scientific experiment is never a part of the experiment. He can never be the observed. Therefore, the methodology of logic and scientific thing is limited. When it comes to the mind has dependency on the words and the imagination, ideation, expectation, etc. And it is very clear that mind has limitation of its own. Where the mind is not present also we exist without knowing what is happening. The only experience which we can talk about is the deep sleep. Not as the story of the waker, but as one who has been in the deep sleep. Don't think from the waker's definition of dream, deep sleep and waking, but as a person who is in the deep sleep. Did we experience deep sleep? What were our experience at that? Where did I exist? Did I know anything? Can say I never existed? Or these type of questions, I think. So the words and the dependency of the mind will have to be put aside. The logic which the mind or the intellect is using will have a limitation. Without these three, this cannot be defined or explained if you are using any of the three. The other logic which I use is that you can touch everything in the world with your index finger, but you can never touch your index finger with the same index finger. But does it mean that the index finger is not touching itself? It is always in touch with itself, but it cannot touch as it will touch anything else in this world. Same is the case. The self, which is knowing everything, is always knowing its own existence and presence, yet it cannot be known like the way in which it is knowing everything else. Therefore, that is the place where the words, the mind and the intellect fails, and the expressions can never match up what is there in the transactional world to define or narrate what is your own experience of yourself or my own experience of myself. Not as the physical body, mind and intellect or the complex as the human mind, but as an existence without the mind and the logic and the intellect. We exist. Do you have that experience of it? We cannot say yes or no, because if I say yes, then it has to be objectified. If I say no, that means I don't exist, but I do exist. In both ways, it is a state where it is inexplicable or anirvajaniyatva comes in. That is where the problem lies.
Right, Bimlaji. Just, and I think that's what I was also trying to get at, in the sense that it's not about the logic of whether it exists or not, or the logic of it. But only thing that I think I'm trying to say is that I think what is important is that it must shine forth, right? It must have it must shine forth, and there is no where no logic or nothing is needed, because when that is a living reality. Of course, the self is a reality and it cannot be denied. But again, all of this is still in the realm of logic. But the self-effulgence of it, that it shines forth, and then no such questions and all of that are, the doubts are completely that dissolved right there, right? So whether you dissolve them before and it shines forth, or it shines forth and it dissolves your doubt, it doesn't matter. But in any case, it must shine forth. That is what I think. My point is, because otherwise that's where the whole idea of it staying an idea can remain, and it can still be a very subtle idea, but which can maybe be mistaken for something that has become.
That's exactly what this today's lecture has been all through. Maybe if you go through the replay fully and come up with your doubts or questions on Sunday, we can clarify it much more.
Great.
Because I explained this aspect which you just touched upon in the beginning of the class. So if you can go through the replay, and then Sunday if you can come, and we can still carry on with this dialogue.
Sure, Binduji. I think that sounds good.
Thank you, Deep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Is anyone who is on the stage, did they want to say anything more before I close out and give it to Bindu? Yeah. Thank you, especially Binduji, for taking the extra time on that. As usual, everything you said at the end is extremely eloquent and gives us much to reflect on. So I know for myself, I'm very happy. Thank you, Deep and Venkat, for the things that you said. I always get a lot from both of you. Very appreciative. Okay, so just so everyone knows, our next gathering will be on Sunday at 8:30 p.m. IST, 11 a.m. Eastern. And it's an open discussion to bring questions and topics forward to Bindu and to the panel, whoever chooses to come up for our discussion. And I'll be very excited and happy if Deep and Venkat are able to come on Sunday to be part of continuing with this. Replays available here and also on the YouTube channel called Advaita Retold. And I think that is probably good enough because we've gone way over. Again, I apologize to you, Binduji, because I know I try to keep the time on time, and I know I'm the one who jumped in, but I think it's a really important topic, and everything you shared was very valuable. Do you want to close us out, Binduji?
Thank you, Atmisha. Thank you, Atmisha, Prakash, Venkat and Deep for your questions. Hope to see you on Sunday with continuation of this topic. And thank you all for listening and staying back for all this time on the discussions, without which this room would not have been successful as it is. Thank you all. Hari Om. Good night.
Good night, Binduji. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Good night.